Are we
That
live?
sounds great. Are we live? I
Oh, yeah.
think we're live.
Ooh,
Hey Sage,
hey, Devo.
what's up?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm happy to see you again this week.
Yeah, of course. As always.
What are we discussing this time?
Well, last time, what did we discuss? We discussed the roadmap items for the upcoming release, right? And I think we had a few items there. And, well, the development for the upcoming release has already started. So, yeah, I was just looking into autosave, which is the next big thing because I've wrapped up, well, mostly wrapped up the development for block settings that's currently in review. So if you're watching this and you'd like to have a look at how we implemented it or give some feedback, um, it's already on GitHub. We haven't merged it, but yeah, it's there. So yeah, I was just looking at the next thing, which is autosave. Yeah, that's the PR.
Yeah, that's the PR. I was trying to catch up with you, and here I am. Uh, yeah, due to be reviewed soon. And now
Yeah,
autosave.
yeah. Autosave. Matthew has done some work on the backend, mostly to support JSON responses. So you can call the save endpoint or like basically the Django create and edit view for the pages or snippets in the Wagtail admin using JavaScript with accepts application JSON content type so that instead of giving you an HTML response, it will just give you a JSON response. So you can call that with um, JavaScript code to do saving in the background, basically. And yeah, now I started thinking about the front end and the fact that we have quite a few different approaches to do essentially the same thing that is detecting changes in the edit form. And now that we are about to add yet another thing to the client side code for the editor, I was thinking maybe we should try to unify the code a bit and just use one approach that is reused for all those different things. And what are those different things, right? So we on Wagtail in the edit form you have the unsaved changes warning when you start editing the page and you haven't clicked save. Yeah, I think we might be able to demo it with the static build. It might take a few seconds before it starts kicking in.
Ooh, the demo gods are not pleased.
No, I think you just need to wait that right. Yeah.
Ah, yeah, there's a cooldown, yeah.
So um yeah, you might want to add some more changes. Yes. Yeah, so that thing um basically it detects changes in the form by so this one is done. It's a no, it's a code that has existed. It's so the code that powers that feature has existed for like I don't know many years at this point. Um, but it uses event listeners for key up change on the form event, and it's been migrated to stimulus. But I think it was originally written in a combination of plain JavaScript and jQuery. Um,
In JavaScript and jQuery, my love language.
I mean, back then it makes sense, right? It's everyone's favorite.
Yep.
And but also in Wagtail you can add things like, for example, stream field blocks or inline panels where we will add more fields to the form, kind of like form sets. And when you do that, we at the moment we I don't think we dispatch a change event. So when that happens, which means um, those new fields will not be, uh, well, the addition of those new fields will not trigger an a change in the form. But of course, if you start typing in the fields, that will also trigger it. But yeah, so on the other hand, we have those event listeners, but also we have a mutation observer that looks for new elements in the form. Might not be the most performant thing. I haven't um, benchmarked it actually, but yeah, that's the way it has been for many years, and it's been working just fine. Um, so that's one implementation of like detecting changes in the form. But then we also have the preview panel, which um, you probably can't use the. Oh wait. Oh yeah.
I
Well,
have
yeah.
found a way to fake it in my
Yeah, you
scrappy
fake it.
little demo.
But so the way the preview panel works, because it automatically updates based on any changes in the form, and it works by having an interval that periodically checks for changes in the serialized form data. And if there are any changes, it will send the form data to the preview endpoint, basically. But yeah, it doesn't use any event listeners or mutation observers. It just periodically checks for changes in the form data. So, but yeah, I feel like before we move on to implementing autosave, because we're basically going to need the same thing where we um, listen for changes in the form and then we want to update the page, right? By sending the form in the background, basically. Um, but yeah, before I implement that, I think we can just reuse one of those implementations of detecting the changes in the form and maybe just unify them and just use that single implementation. And then maybe when we detect the changes, we just dispatch an event that will bubble up to the document. And then any code that needs to know when the form has changed can just listen to that event. So yeah, I'm still deciding which one we want to keep and which one to remove, basically. So I was wondering if you, Thibaut, as the Wagtail front-end expert, whether you have any opinion.
Haha. Can you remind me where the code is for the dirty form checks?
So it's now in a controller called unsaved controller, I
Oh,
believe.
yes, of course. Yeah, I have fair bit of front-end expertise, but Wagtail is quite a big code base, and we've had lots of refactorings underway, led by our core contributor LB, core team member LB, to Stimulus. So I haven't actually seen this code in quite a while. Um, yeah, okay. So this is the unsaved controller's logic to retrieve the form data,
Yep.
and then there is the actual checking, I assume. Yeah, initial form data, current form data. Um, yeah, for people who don't code much JS, this here actually is method call because we use getters and setters on this controller.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of like Python properties.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think what's tricky here, Sage, is just both options probably have quite clear drawbacks. So have to figure out which set of drawbacks is acceptable, I suppose. Um, I'm a bit surprised that here we have some exclusion logic. I guess it's specifically because in the context of those unsaved warnings, we don't really care if those things change. Whereas for the preview, we do
Um,
care, or it's
so
just an oversight.
so it's not exactly that we don't care, but rather we care about it so much that we detect changes to the form and the comments as two separate things, even though they're still within the same form element, but we want to display. So if you try to add a new comment, it will add like you have unsaved change edits and comments, I think.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
whereas the preview, it doesn't care. So
And so for autosave, I'm
r-
guessing we want to have as many of the possible changes as possible all
e-
bundled into this.
exactly. So it's closer to the way the preview controller works, I would say.
Yeah. So I was a bit confused because I guess even with the current setup, there are some fields you could add that won't serialize as form data.
Yep.
So if you have a file input, like not a Django one even, but just like the HTML file input, fundamentally you can't serialize this like this. And Django, it's a struggle for us as well. So how much do we have to be aware of those things, or is it just like it's a trade-off that autosave won't work with those fields?
Oh, that's a good question. So for previews specifically, the backend code at the moment doesn't handle um, file fields because we store the form data in the session, which essentially works by serializing it into the session object, right? And we can't serialize files. So we at the moment just ignore file fields. But for the unsaved controller, I think there's a custom logic that basically just takes the file name, the size, and the type just to detect if it has changed, right? Because you don't actually need to send that data anywhere. And for autosave, I think I was thinking we would try our best to support it by um, so once we detect that hey the file has changed, right, the actual form submission, it I would try to mimic like normal HTML form submission as much as possible, which means we would also send the files as blobs, um, yeah, in the request.
Yeah, I remember a while ago also researching which other common fields might be skipped. This was from a way older implementation of this code, but there were also issues with I think radios. Oh, select multiple and checkbox select multiple, um, which I'm guessing might have been fixed since, or we would definitely fix as part of this new autosave work to make sure that we capture all the types of.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I think that might be why I'm using URL search parameters to serialize the form, which um, I think it does support multi values because the default form submission basically works by like I think it's called like www form URL encoded. So it's the form data is URL encoded.
Yeah,
Whereas in this case, we are just stringify it using entries, which I don't think it would take into account multi-value.
it was a much older implementation, so I think the safest will be to just check what happens with more fields of those types.
Right.
Um, that's the type of thing. Yeah, that's just like the type of knowledge you have to have of the relevant DOM and JS APIs. Like, much rather trust testing than remembering. Okay, so yes, this issue about different field types that you said we have some plans on how to make it work better and potential bugs that we can definitely investigate more. And then you mentioned, so coming back to stream fields, um, if all I do is press this button here to create a heading block, then obviously there's not going to necessarily be relevant events, nor necessarily new form data, or is the form data changed just because the hidden input that contains the stream field data has been
So
changed?
the form data will change, but at the moment it will not trigger a change
Yeah,
event on the
change
form.
events. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, the trigger, the options are then event listener or set interval. Uh, why not both? What's the risk in sending out too many save requests?
I mean, it would definitely be spamming the backend, right?
Yeah,
If you set the interval at low enough value,
because those are quite heavy requests, right?
kind of, yeah, we need to validate the whole form essentially. And if you have like a big page, that could potentially be heavy.
Okay, I was thinking even before that, like just over the network, it's a heavy payload. But you're
Yeah.
thinking of the processing costs in the Django server.
So yeah, it's
I
kind
guess
of
both
both. Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the problem with it done server side is even before we could detect if there's been a change, we'd have to do the whole processing of the request for it to be converted into the relevant, I guess, Django models or Python at least. So that's quite heavy. So we do the check, the comparison client side, so that we only send the requests that matter. And then I'm guessing once that goes through to the server, there's going to be a cost of saving the data if it's actually a change. Is there any kind of like before, after, has it changed check on the server side?
I think there is, but we save a new revision regardless. So,
Oh, we save new revisions for now?
oh, for autosave, we will overwrite
Okay,
the
okay.
revision. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, because that was a big design trade-off, I suppose, for us, that if we introduce autosave, we don't necessarily want to have 1,000 super granular versions in this kind of UI.
Yep.
Um,
So it will create one new revision when you first enter the page
oh, when you
and make some
first start
edits.
your kind of autosave session.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So even that, we want to be really careful to avoid doing that if we can. So that if you just land on the page and you don't do anything, it doesn't create an autosave session.
Yeah, and that's also why at the start of this demo we had a delay for the unsafe
Yeah,
changes to
yeah,
kick in because um, yeah, the shape of the form data could change while the page is being initialized.
yeah, yeah. Definitely slightly shaky foundations to build the new autosave logic on, but I think that's just reality of working on a long-term project like this.
And for people watching, I can just guess that some of you might be thinking, why not use some kind of like WebSockets or something to
Ah,
just send the fields that change, right? Why do we not do that?
why do we not do that, Sage?
Um, yeah, well, the thing is, if you want to set up something like WebSockets on a Django project, you need to bring in additional dependencies and setups like Django channels and potentially other packages. And because Whitetail is, at the end of the day, it's just another Django package, right? And if we were to use those technologies, we would essentially be imposing those additional requirements to our users. And Wagtail has not needed that for many years. And if we were to add that now, I think it would also mean people who want to upgrade to the latest version will need to set up all the additional things that you need to get that running.
Yeah. So I changed what I'm screen sharing just because I think Sage is definitely in the cards in some way in the future, because we do want to have way more like collaborative editing features than just auto saving. I guess the auto saving, the idea is it's super useful if you're working on your own on your page, more confidence in the content being saved as you enter it, but also super useful when you work with multiple people because then they can just refresh their copy without having to coordinate with you whether you've hit save or no. So you can just work on the same thing at the same time if you coordinate like that. But I guess the future is definitely you'd see the updates on your own side when you're working with other people without having to refresh either. And at that point, you can probably still do some kind of polling, but it starts to feel like it'd be so much faster to see the updates with WebSockets.
Yeah.
So at some point, we will probably have to say, okay, those features are only for people who are on a ASGI server configured this or that way, right? It's just we wanna
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I
not
mean,
so sure.
it's still early at this point. It's just that, I'm not sure we want to maintain like detecting, oh, you have it set up or you don't, and then you have to
Yeah,
like hide some features behind feature flags or something like that. It's depends on how easily we can separate the two or make it work, I guess. Because
yeah,
I can imagine that being horrible to maintain. Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
one thing broke in one um, mode and it works fine in another.
yeah. At this point, are we on save draft without page reload or save draft automatically? What we're discussing here sounds like we're on save draft automatically at the same time as
Yes.
without page reload. Because
Yeah.
the other option would be just have people click on the button, Sage,
Oh,
then you don't have to detect.
that's a good point, actually. Mm, yeah, but I don't think the the thing is there are still cases where you do want, well, at least, I mean, the thing is, we also, for the MVP of autosave, we're not going to add the ability to immediately render any form errors.
Yes,
That's
it's time to leave the happy path that's easy to design for, of success of all requests at all times,
yeah.
and navigate the complexity of what happens if, uh, at the very least, there's an validation error.
So yeah, I would rather keep the buttons working as they are for now.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we do both at the same time. There'll still be a button, and there will not be live form validation. Just there will be form validation, but it will be refresh. If
So there will, I think we will let you know that autosave has been paused, for example,
yeah,
because
exactly.
of validation errors. And then if you know what is causing that validation error, like maybe you're missing a required field, and then you keep on filling that out, and then there's no longer any validation errors, then the autosave can continue. But if you don't know what exactly, because the thing is, with Wagtail, because it's built on Django, you can have custom Django validators, and that may not be immediately clear to your editors. So you need the errors to be server rendered. And because we don't yet have that mechanism, we will need to do a full page reload.
Yeah, I popped this example of multiple people working on the same page at the same time for reference. So here I logged into the CMS on two different accounts, and on the other account, I saved a refresh of the page. And that's the kind of like prominent warning we would have for autosave, I would assume, when there's validation error that we can't
Yeah.
autosave anymore. Something pops up on your screen that calls attention. You don't necessarily need to get to it right now, but you should definitely take note and probably do something about it.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, trade-offs. But there's no way we do all those things in the one release, so it makes lots of sense to go incremental. So back to your question, I guess my feeling is we need to do something that um, is the least error prone. Um, so I definitely feel like set interval would be nice to have at some point. just as a fallback, but it really shouldn't be a small interval if we did that to keep the requests costs limited. Um, but it still feels like it could be nice as like a confidence fallback that there's no, because I want to be careful that we have something that's resilient against us failing to identify some common scenarios. It'll be a really sad time if we miss something and some custom widgets out there failed to autosave completely. um, I feel better if it's like at least once every minute, for example. And then for the more like freshness of the content, we can have more regular event-based checks. Or am I overthinking it?
I can see where you're coming from. I just I'm not sure. Hmm. S- So essentially, right before we send the request to the server, we do want to check whether anything has changed, right?
Yeah,
The checking will happen right before sending it. So yeah, um, hmm,
but the sending will not happen if there's been no
if
changes.
nothing has changed, yeah. So you're saying we're keeping the actual triggers for that checking um, as both using event listeners and intervals with the intervals set to something that's not as immediate.
So I guess in my mind, I haven't actually seen the preview code. Where's the interval?
Um, is there a set interval? Surely there is. I think.
Not in this file.
Wait. Oh, it's using a set optional interval. I have a utility because um, you can disable the interval by setting it to 0 in the Django settings, and I wrapped it into a utility.
Ah. Oh, and this is yeah, Django settings. So in order for me to find the value, I will have to go to the Django docs. Sorry, the Wagtail docs.
Yeah, the Wagtail auto update preview interval at the bottom. Right there.
Thank you. 10 seconds.
No,
Yeah.
that's the editing session. The
Oh,
auto.
my bad. Um, 500. Wow. Okay. So I guess here, these two, for example, they have very different interval values because this one, the consequence of it being too low is bad
Not
front end
responsive.
performance. The
Oh,
consequence of it
oh,
being too
if
high,
it being yeah, if it's too low, then performance reasons. If it's too high, it's not as responsive when you edit.
yeah. And this one, there's the server costs. We want to be careful not to hammer the server. So in this case, we want to be careful not to hammer the server, but we definitely want the checks to be frequent enough that you don't lose work.
Yep.
I guess to me, it sounds like maybe what we want is frequent interval, like the preview, that is just then debounces the calls, so you don't call the server every 500 milliseconds. Does that solve both problems?
That's kind of how the preview works.
Yeah. What debounce do we have set for the preview?
At the moment, I actually set. I think I used the same value for the debounce. So you essentially have to wait
500?
double the interval.
So that feels quite low to me as far as like hammering the server.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe is the preview cheaper to render than saving a revision? Not really, no.
The preview does not need to. So with the edit, you have to create or update a revision and potentially also updating the page instance to set things like the latest revision, foreign key, and like last updated thing, and maybe adding an audit log, right? For example.
Yep.
But with preview, you literally just validate the form and then put it in the session object.
Okay. Sounds to me like it's definitely cheaper, but not like a order of magnitude cheaper. Um, so yeah, maybe I am overthinking it a bit, and we can just go with quite small interval times two for the bounce, like you did for the preview.
I think there's also the question whether we want to keep this unsaved message because ideally, if autosave is happening, you shouldn't need to worry about unsaved changes, right?
Yeah, well, I'm guessing that it's shouldn't be present if the autosave is on, but if the autosave is off, we would need something like this.
Yeah.
Can
So
you
maybe we
turn?
put the maybe we put the messaging for like autosave is paused, for example, due to validation errors or someone else saving a new revision into that footer
Yeah.
instead. So I think I discussed this with Ben, our designer, yesterday, and we were talking about there's the possibility of people, due to them being used to Wagtail so much, they no longer see that message anymore.
Oh yeah.
Like they would just ignore it, and they didn't realize that the messaging has changed due to autosave. So we might still add a, an, a small indicator at the top.
Mm. I mean, to me, I haven't discussed this with our designer Ben in a while, but I expect that eventually this would disappear and move all into the header area because at least eventually you won't need to have a save draft button anymore. And if you will, it will only be contextually if autosave is off for some reason. And the other actions like definitely aren't frequent enough to warrant always being around this. That's why they're already in the dropdown. And also because this is pretty valuable real estate on a long form like this. Like you wanna ideally be able to see more of the screen. But like I'm talking, a few releases in the future at the very least.
Hmm.
So yeah, back to autosave being off. The only scenarios are validation fails and someone else has saved, or can you
I
also
think
turn it off for your site if you wanted?
oh, that's a good point. Hmm. Yeah, maybe we want to have the option to disable it.
Why?
I don't know. If we're not adding that option, then I mean I would be fine with it. Then I'm just saying that those two, like validation errors and someone else saving a new revision, those two I think should be the only reasons why autosave might be paused.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you add an option to disable it, then we're back to current state of affairs.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely see how you could imagine someone out there who might not want to use that feature and would like us to disable it. But it does take some like maintenance burden for us when we introduce those options. Um, so unless there was someone who does manifest themselves like that, I don't really see like a clear case for why you would not want this. And on the contrary, I do feel like fundamental aspects of how a product works like this. Um, it is in our interests that it's predictable from one Whitetail site to another. Like you don't want to go to one version of Google Docs where you have to do Control S all the time, and one where you don't have to. You'll just never remember to do it when you on the one that you do need it. So that's the kind of feature it's gonna already be tricky to navigate because of Wagtail sites having multiple versions over time. But 5 years in the future where everyone is in the autosave world, I just rather everyone was in it. Um, like for the preview, for example, we can disable the preview auto refreshing, right?
Hmm.
And you can even disable previews. But like, why would you do that? Anyway, um, yeah. So I feel like we could proceed without it being disable able until someone asks for it with an eloquent enough use case, basically. Um, and it feels like performance wise, yeah, maybe it is a bigger interval than the preview, but it doesn't have to be orders of magnitude bigger. And yeah, definitely the unsaved controller needs some rework as part of your changes.
Hmm.
So we can probably stop having it based on event listeners and just based on interval for the triggering of the check.
Yeah, so we also remove like all the mutation observer stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. That feels like, obviously there's clear trade offs here for performance, but it feels to me like it would probably be better performance wise to have um, a check no matter what every second, let's say, that that check will be like somewhat performance sensitive, but I don't think it's tremendous compared to having even listeners triggering those checks way more often when you're typing. Like,
Yes, I
so
think
the
that
perform
was my
yeah,
pet peeve when I was developing Wagtail. With stimulus, we have like automatic logging of stimulus actions, and because this is hooked up into um, as a stimulus action for the event listeners, you constantly. Oh, I guess you run it. You run the build production build. If you did, then
yeah, I run production build this
yeah,
way.
you don't get the logs. But yeah, essentially every time you type, you'll get those logs. So I would like to get rid of that.
Yeah. Should we disable them for the dev build as well?
I don't think so. They can be useful sometimes. It's just that at the moment, I don't think there is a way to like filter out the events that you don't want to be logged. I, it might be possible if you just override some methods in the application class, but yeah, if there is a way to filter certain events so that ones that we actually care about still show up, that would be useful.
Do. Ooh, here we are. Debug. I mean, our contributor LB has got good success out of making improvements to Stimulus itself in the past. So
Yep.
um, I'll definitely take a look at open issues and PRs for it, and if it's not already a feature, see what they might be thinking. Um, okay. Yeah, I feel like definitely from a performance perspective, logs notwithstanding, uh, it's the typing that you want to be not on a performance hot path. So I really like the set interval. I feel like that has some opportunity also for us to switch this if we wanted to. What's the JS API when you want to defer something? Request idle callback? Does that
Oh,
ring a
I
bell?
don't think I've heard of it.
Oh, let me check. Request idle callback.
Ooh, is this a fancy new thing?
It's a fancy new thing like 5 years ago.
Is it kind of like request animation frame?
Yes, so request animation frame like was the, I guess, animation specific way to do this, where you want to defer something until future next frame to avoid doing things that are more frequent than necessary. Really useful when you need it. And request idle callback is about the CPU usage, I believe. Just deferring something until um, both the frame is over. There's no like performance sensitive rendering, and yeah, I don't think there's guarantees that this is called per frame or anything like that. Um, I'm surprised it's still not supported in Safari, but it looks like things might have changed at some point.
Yeah, the TP is green, so I guess it's been merged.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's the kind of thing that, you can adopt it if you really have a need for it, but it's kind of annoying to have to code both the path where it's available and
Yeah,
where it's not.
if request idle callback in
Yeah,
window.
yeah. I have written some code like this here and there, but um, it's clear maintenance cost there as well. Yeah, nice. I hope this is definitely an indication of the future and not just like in technology preview it's enabled by default or something like that. But we'll see soon enough, I assume. Um, okay. Anyway, TLDR, we can get rid of this code. Probably performance will be better. Are we gonna do some benchmarking, Sage?
Oh, how do you benchmark this kind of thing?
How do you benchmark? I think you would have to go in your browser with a dev build if possible and use the performance tools in here. Um,
With the dev build?
I so the dev build, it's only gonna make a difference if you have dependencies like React that give you more logging in your dev mode. Um, I have refreshed to the dev build, and I'm gonna display the stimulus logging in my console. Oh, I messed up something.
How did you build the development build?
npm run start.
Yeah,
Um,
is there caching? Oh wait, you've disabled it.
yeah.
That's
What have I
interesting.
messed up? What have I messed up? Oh, oh, someone's using the wrong Wagtail version.
It's so
Hmm.
handy to have that version number directly in the settings.
Is
You think we should make it so that if you click on it, it will copy? Maybe you could, not worth it because you can just copy it yourself.
I don't know, Sage. Um, Someone in the chat says, "Are we programming or fixing the issues?" We're not doing either. We're just planning, I suppose, at this
Yeah,
point in time, trying to figure out what is sensible for us to do, and then Sage will do the coding after.
I hope. Yeah, that's the thing. These days, a lot of the time I spend is not really, well, not only on the coding, but also, a
Yeah,
big chunk of the time is around the planning and like, is this what we want? Because like there are many different ways to do the same thing, but yeah, it takes time to figure out what would be the most sensible approach.
yeah. It's a big code base, and it's not like we have another team that's out there telling us exactly how to do things, what we need to implement. For us, it makes much more sense that you get lots of leeway as a dev to decide what's the sensible approach. as you're implementing it, so that we don't spend time devising things that are just not buildable anyway. Or, we spend way more time building things than warranted because we want to do it in a very specific way. Um, yeah, my command line tool to check lines of code says we have 800,000 lines of JS and TypeScript.
Oh, that's just JS and TypeScript?
Yes.
Oh, I thought that's like the whole code base.
That is probably counting way more test files. If I just look inside SRC.
Does it count snapshots?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was looking at other file types inside the client folder. So inside the client folder, if I just look at like our actual admin front end code, we're back to 50,000, which makes way more sense. Um, yeah, about 50,000 lines of JS and TypeScript. That makes way more sense. I'm expecting
That's
the
a bit low. I would expected it in the hundreds of thousands, but not like more than 200.
okay. This is only checking the client folder, so there's definitely JS code outside, but I feel like that's
Huh.
the majority, Sage.
Oh,
Maybe I'll publish like the exact numbers later. I'll check exactly which folders I'm ignoring and allowing and get a better count. Um, yeah, maybe that's because I'm only counting lines of actual code, not blank lines and comments. That might be why you think it's too low. Anyway, um, I have installed the correct version this time.
there we
We have
go.
the logs. And now we can do a bit of performance benchmarking. So you go in here and you're going to decide exactly how you want to benchmark it. I think memory would be very interesting. And I quite like to add a bit of throttling because generally when you benchmark, you want to look at the painful scenarios. You have to decide carefully what you want to sample just because the performance cost of this sampling is really high. So I think for now we'll keep it simple and I'll just switch to a more expensive page to render.
Is the homepage more expensive?
I would assume the trickiest for us would be long stream field. Do you want to do something more painful?
A recipe page.
A recipe page. See, that's the trade-off of having realistic content. I never remember which one it is that has the most complex content.
Maybe we should have a subtle way to put that in the title of the page.
Large mincemeat
Yeah,
start.
something like that.
Okay, let's see what happens. I will make this more desktop size, a little bit more realistic. Um, Turn that iPad Air around.
Ooh. Imagine
And
having that many devices.
all those ones, you mean? Like in
Yeah.
my test lab?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some people do. I mean, like, it's a really useful thing as a dev if you have access to like two or three, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we are initializing. And I think we can get going. I'll create a block and type. Maybe we can do some events interaction in here. Add a comment.
I can just sense that your console logs will be filled with change. Well, I guess you didn't preserve the logs, so yeah, this is only after the full page reload.
Oh, yes. Thank you. My browser is struggling. Okay. They've released a new version. I haven't seen this Insights tab before.
Oh,
Um, so I think top to bottom is the right way to read this. Very top. This is the most helpful bit to figure out where you are, what you're looking at. Um, if I remember right, the yellow in this area chart at the top, that's scripting, and purple is rendering. I forget what the green is. So if you see big yellow blobs, that's the kind of things you want to start to investigate. And you have your screenshot timeline underneath. I think this has like a specific term. I think we call it film strip, like kind of like a movie theater film
mm-hmm.
strip. So you get to have a better sense of exactly what might be causing the spikes. And then this is aligned with network events underneath. So here there is a really clear spike when I'm hitting save with lots of network traffic. I assume we're reloading the preview around the same time as I've hit save, which explains those requests. Um, so I think we want to look at like, the intensive stuff that will definitely take lots of processing, like here, the loading of the new page. I can see why that might be quite intense. But then you also want to look at things that probably shouldn't be too intense. So here, for example, it's kind of like a sizable spike. You want to check that it's actually for something that is a meaningful interaction. Um, any spike you feel like we should look at in particular, Sage?
Maybe while you were typing.
Yeah, so the typing will be here, the keyboard events. You can see that there's lots of them one after the other. So clearly there's typing happening.
Yeah.
And clearly the performance cost isn't too high.
Okay, that's not too bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm on a very, very good computer. So you do want to keep in mind, um, yeah, like this, that it takes more than one frame at 60 FPS. So, 60 FPS is kind of like the gold standard for rendering. That's 14 milliseconds, right?
I
1000 divided by 60. I felt like you'd know that, Sage. You're a gamer. 16 milliseconds. So one frame every 16 milliseconds. So anything like this that takes more than 16 milliseconds, you start to want to be questioning it. I don't feel like typing at like 60 FPS is necessarily a problem if that's not achieved, because people don't type that fast. But like still, yeah, I guess the top like APMs of pro gamers is like 400 actions per minute, right?
I don't know.
So yeah, you can't type more than like, if you type 10 characters in 1 second, that's quite good.
Yeah.
20 characters. Well, we have space anyway. Um, so we can investigate one of those events specifically, maybe. Um, I guess we'll have a key up and key down for lots of these, and we can zoom out on a specific one. Yeah, so the keyboard event stack. And I think here will be our code. Okay, some React event listening. So I'm guessing this is because React has a global event listener for all key events, and then it dispatches to the relevant React components. And probably here there's not doing anything, it's just deciding that those events aren't relevant for it. Oh, so there's no actual like Wagtail processing for this one.
Interesting. Oh
Something
yeah,
has been debounced. Ooh, that's
yeah.
us right
I
there.
I know that's the unsaved controller right there. I
I'm
recall
s-
because there's the check. I think that's the name of the function method in unsaved controller, and then you call debounce.cancel. Yeah.
yeah. So here I'm a bit surprised that our Webpack source maps don't have more like user-friendly names, but I guess maybe that's the shortest. It's just we have quite long file paths.
Isn't
Um,
that? I don't know. What would be more user friendly than that?
I guess just dropping all of this.
Oh, I think I don't know. I've always assumed that's just how Webpack works.
It is just how Webpack works, but there's lots of ways to configure Webpack.
Oh, can you configure the protocol?
Oh, um, I don't know. This is what I'm referring to for F, just like the source mapping generation. You can have it be really coarse and fast
Mm,
or really precise and slow. Yeah, who knew there'd be so many options for source maps? I forget which one we're using in Wagtail. But anyway, yeah, you're right. At least the method name is preserved, and then we know our unsafe controller check here. That's 1 millisecond. So I think it's good, but definitely 1 millisecond times me typing 50 characters. That's just a debounced version. So it's kind of expensive just to debounce something.
yeah.
So it probably would be better for it to be on set interval, as we discussed.
Hmm.
And I guess if you wanted to get the exact answer, you just benchmark them both, note down those numbers. Um,
What about that big yellow chunk? A
which
few,
one?
yeah, just before.
That one?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, is that the stream field picker and rendering?
So we have one to render the stream field block chooser.
And that's React. No, no shades for React, but just stating a fact.
That is React. Do you think it's a problem? I'm not sure it's a problem.
Probably not.
Because, like, there's definitely benefits in using React for this because
Yeah,
then you
yeah,
only
yeah,
render it with the
yeah,
correct content when you need it. Other libraries, like at least in the pre-React world, will have this pre-rendered somewhere on the page, and then we'll have to show and hide it,
yeah.
potentially risking like having it always rendered, just hidden away. Anyway, yeah, measure. Definitely measure is the name of the game here. Don't just react. Okay, so then we click, and I'm guessing this here. Sorry, the second yellow spike is probably just handling of the interaction with the block, and then this will be handling the creation. Okay, there's the preview refreshing
Oh,
in there as well.
yep.
Okay, so there's just lots happening in sequence because
Oh, maybe it's the mutation observer.
no, it wouldn't be so big. Do you want to hunt down for it?
Ooh, hunt down.
So we're on a smaller time scale. Um, this is a browser extension, so this is not relevant. Reminder if you want to do this for real, to do it without any browser extensions in your browser. More browser extension, more
Oh
browser
no.
extension. Oh, Bitwarden. See, this is why I prefer to not have my password manager in my browser. As a dev, it's just like really
But
unhelpful.
it's handy to just Command Shift L.
It is handy, but at what cost? Sage, now I have it in my stack trace.
Oh no.
Ooh, render the minimap. Is the
That's
minimap
React too.
worth four
Sorry.
frames?
Hmm.
Why do we even render the minimap? It's not even displayed. Oh, it's just for
Yeah,
this.
it's updating the minimap, right?
It's just for that. Oh, is this worth it, Sage?
I mean, you want it to be accurate.
Yeah. But here there's just so many ones anyway that they all look the same. We could just have a check like how many items are there to display, just find out that many. Yeah, anyway, 70 milliseconds. Um, Before that, what do we have? Some stream field rendering logic with animation right there.
Ooh.
This is why you shouldn't do your animations in JS. And there's lots of JS that needs to run to animate. Um, it fits in one frame, I suppose, at least.
Wait, how do you know that it's a single frame again? Is it the
I'm
ask
just looking at
thing?
the duration,
Oh.
14 milliseconds. I'll actually know. I'd have to check. I think there's a different view you can check if you really want to be sure. Um, yeah, you see this red overlay here. It's meant to flag things that are too long, but
Mm.
at least in my mind, any JS that takes more than 14 milliseconds to execute is room for suspicion. Though obviously, not a deal breaker for all code not to happen inside one frame. Yeah, okay. Why does this happen here? Selected item change. So that's the point at which you clicked this item and it decides how to insert the block.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the block has insertion there. So it's not so bad actually. Um, there's about, what are we looking at here? Do I have 500 milliseconds? I mean, that's quite a pessimistic timing of it, but yeah, 500 milliseconds for insertion of one block, just because of how it's spread. And within those 500 milliseconds, like the JS execution time isn't crazy big. 70, 32, about 200 milliseconds of actual JS execution to insert a block. I think we could get it like 10 times smaller if we tried hard, but it's probably not worth it unless that execution time was to scale with the complexity of the page. That's probably what we would want to check here. That's like for a much
Mm.
heavier page than this one. It's not like 10 times more work. But surely we don't code that bad, Sage, right? Um, yeah, and then this is my browser extension that muddies the water. And let's see if we can find the um, preview rendering. Okay, our preview call. Do you want to find if we can find our set interval? Ooh,
Ooh.
timer fired.
Shots fired.
Set preview data. So I assume that the bounce.
This is unsaved controller.
Thankfully, someone isn't asleep at the wheel. What am I searching for?
It's
Sets optional.
optional.
So set preview data. Where is it? Where is it?
I think I usually add a parenthesis, an opening parenthesis when I'm looking for. Oh wait, yeah, you got it. Sorry.
It was a trap.
Uh, yeah,
It's
because
rare.
yeah, this is a bit. I don't know how you feel about it, but the thing is, the function will not be debounced if you have disabled the auto update, so that clicking the button will immediately do the thing.
Yeah. Why is this one there?
That's prettier thing, or ESLint formatting. I don't know, but one of those. Yeah,
Definitely prettier. It adds. So
yeah.
this is
Like it
TypeScript
doesn't make sense,
syntax
but
for.
that's
Okay.
valid syntax, and that's like the convention if you have multi-line type unions. It looks funny,
Yeah.
but I guess it helps align things.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at this stage we should have something.
Define a separate type.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But anyway, it's not like we look at this code super often, so and then no one else does. So it's not like there's a ton of value in the API looking super neat. Okay, so back to our benchmarking. Set preview data, 7 milliseconds, which is the fetch call primarily. So where the hell is the? There's no check here of the form data.
There is. It's just that this method is only called when there is indeed a change, I
Where
think.
did that happen?
Maybe if you look at has changes, check and update preview this. That's the method.
I'm surprised not to see it in the call stack. Maybe. Okay, I'm guessing there is something in our um, JS compilation that means it's one of those two. Doesn't make too much sense to me, but I don't see why it would disappear otherwise.
Mm,
Ah, there it is. Check and update
mm.
preview. So we are inside check and update preview. What's this arrow? What is going on there?
What error? Oh, arrow. I thought you said error.
Install timer. Ah, okay, I
That's the
understand.
initial.
So this is the check, and then it's the bounce for the actual code. Okay,
Mm,
I was confused. So 2 milliseconds for check and update preview, the bulk of which is serialization to form data.
mm,
So that's the cost, Sage. 2 milliseconds to serialize the page to form data. And our cost to process one key app event was 1 millisecond. So we definitely don't want to do from data serialization for every keyboard event. And CQFD, as we say in French, I think it makes sense to do it on set interval,
okay.
the uh, form data serialization, that's the expensive parts of the check, and then the bounce, the actual calling of the server. And we can get rid of mutation observer, which I don't even know where to find in this mess.
It is an unsaved controller, but yeah, we
How
don't.
can
We
we find
shouldn't
it,
need that.
Sage?
Oh, oh, you mean in the profiling?
Yeah, if I
That's a good
just,
point.
I'll just do the smallest amount of mutation that I can find. So let's mutate something real cheap. That's mutated enough, right?
I
I
don't
click.
think so. We don't. The mutation observer doesn't look for attribute modifications. It only looks for sub 3 child nodes. So if it's only toggling attributes and not adding or removing child nodes, probably didn't trigger. Maybe disable your Bitwarden extension for now and then try again.
Go away.
Oh, I hate it when a tooltip obstructs the
Yeah,
thing.
let's do it the proper way in an anonymous window.
Did you actually disable it?
I thought I'd do it in an, I'd
Ah,
move to an anonymous window, but
okay.
I'm too lazy. Oh, I hate you. Yeah, we do tend to have tooltip overload as devs these days, and you never know who's looking at this in zoomed in UI where the tooltips take over your whole screen.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry, I'm still trying to find something that isn't.
Maybe delete a block instead of,
Do you think?
yeah.
Boom. Processing. Where do I find my mutation observer? I'm sure people who spend more time in this than me, they must be screaming, looking at this and saying, "Why don't you use feature
Mm.
X or Y or Z?"
Well, we all have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, biggest confession time is clearly I haven't ever benchmarked mutation observer before.
Developers these days.
Yeah, getting
We used
fancy
to have
rendering
enormous
tools and
budgets.
okay, I can't find it, Sage. I'm gonna give up.
Mm,
Um, React.
that's interesting.
So the click event, lots is happening when I delete.
Delete block.
That makes sense to me. I don't really know if
Can you search in this thing?
that'd be nice, right?
Yeah.
See, that's what the power users are meant to be doing, I think. And saved controller. I'm surprised it's inside the click event.
Maybe because it's somehow, I don't know, bundled as like still the same flow from the event of you clicking the delete button all the
Yeah.
way. Is that the actual mutation observer?
Invalidate content path. I don't know, Sage.
Can we can we find mutation?
That would be a good thing to search for.
What is that? Oh, React. Hmm. Maybe you can't.
I'm sure there is a way. I'll look it up after this. Interrogate the wisdom of the internet. And I'm sure someone somewhere has already done this. Um, TLDR, we have a plan.
We do.
I
So autosave is happening.
autosave is happening, and we know how to trigger the actual autosaving, and we will not make it disableable unless
Disableable.
disableable unless someone really really says why they want it and they commit to maintaining it forever. And oh, thank you, Baptiste, for mentioning that CQFD is QED in English.
Ah, yeah, that's I wanted to mention that, but I wasn't sure if there if what's the I don't remember like the actual um I know the abbreviation, but I don't remember the
Oh, the actual what it means when you
Yeah,
say QED.
yeah,
It's a Latin quote, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, something
yeah,
something demonstrate.
yeah. And thus it is demonstrated.
Been fun, Sage.
Yeah.
Um, thank you, Joel and Baptiste, for saying hi on stream. See you
Oh,
next week.
see you.
Baptiste says is quod erat demonstrandum.
Ah, s- sounds similar to what I said.
Have a